Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab.
My name is Dylan.
And we are here to talk about some of our favorite movies that we believe are must-watches before you perish. Dylan, why are people listening to us talk about these movies?
Well, you're listening to me because I went to film school and I was a video editor in a former life. And why are they listening to you, Gab?
Well, in a former life, I was a professional actor. I have a degree in theater performance, character development, plot devices, etc., etc. And I just love movies.
Yes, I actually was Burt Reynolds, and then I was reincarnated as I am now.
R.I.P. Burt Reynolds. What a guy.
R.I.P.
So Dylan, this week we are going to be talking about a movie that I love, have loved, I would say a good majority of my life. You've got to remind me when this movie came out, but one that I was shocked to know that you had only seen once.
Not only had I seen this movie once, but I think I saw it probably during the pandemic, because my wife was also surprised I'd only seen it once, and she was like, well, you should check it out.
Wow, I'm blown away because this was a big one for me growing up. My parents even took me to see it at Radio City, with a live orchestra playing the score. I mean, I had all the plates from McDonald's. I guess McDonald's did like a plate, well, no, I don't want to say giveaway, but like a special edition plate plastic plate that you could purchase.
Yeah.
And they still eat off of them now. I mean, they eat off of real dishes for dinner, but if they're eating a sandwich or something, they'll pull out a plastic plate.
That's some good craftsmanship, though, that it's still here, which this movie came out in 1997, so it's held up.
It's held up, and they put it in the dishwasher every time, too. This is not like a hand wash only situation. But anyway, I digress. This movie is what'd you say, 97?
1997.
1997 Disney classic Hercules. Dylan, tell the people, what is Hercules about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Hercules is basically, it is based on the Grecian myth.
I think you could just say Greek.
Yeah,
it
but
would be Grecian.
Ah, you son of a bitch.
I mean, you're the one that's trying to sound like you got some kind of fucking master's degree out here or some shit.
I do have a master's degree.
You do?
Yes. I
You
had to
have
go
a
back to school
master's?
for one. This is not the forum to discuss it, but yes.
Wow. Dylan, I'm so proud of you. I didn't know that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm going to send you a cake.
This has nothing to do with what Hercules is about. Hercules
Anyway.
is about the Greek hero. And they basically steal his origin from Superman. And we basically turn him into a superhero. And Hades knows 18 years in advance Hercules is going to ruin his plans, and he wants him not to do that. And some stuff ensues where Hercules kind of, maybe, spoilers, ends up doing that.
So I take it you liked it.
How do you know that?
Well,
Or how do you not know that?
based on your half-hearted, pithy description of the plot. Anyway, what does IMDb say?
Oh, the IMDb plot summary says, the son of Zeus and Hera is stripped of his immortality as an infant and must become a true hero in order to reclaim it. Do you want to hear some taglines? Because we got a lot.
Tag me up.
And I won't say anything until after I read them. A comedy so big, no theater can hold it.
Well, that's ridiculous.
A comedy of epic proportions.
Also ridiculous.
Happy IV of July. Which I guess was very much based on when the movie must have come out.
Yeah, okay.
But I like that. Zero to hero.
Love it.
Who puts the glad in Gladiator?
Hercules.
You can run, but you can't Hydra.
Lame.
I'm gonna be honest, these are mostly misses, man. Oof. All
That's
right.
it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I was
that
expecting
not
more.
enough? That was 6 taglines.
No, it was a lot. I just, based on the look on your face, I thought maybe the list was going to continue.
No, that's it.
Yeah, yikes. All right. Well, I guess we should get to our opinions, although I immediately am overwhelmed with a dark cloud of doom.
Let's get to our opinions.
In this critic's opinion,
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I will go first, considering this was my pick. I'm going to tell you off the top. the last time I saw this movie was probably at earliest or at latest, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The most recent time I could have watched this movie was probably like ninth grade when we were studying Greek mythology. And I remember realizing how completely inaccurate this film was, that like Zeus had like a bunch of different wives and Hercules was like not really a relevant person and he never, I don't know, whatever. I'm no expert on, what did you call it? Grecian mythology.
You son of a bitch.
But I do remember it being very inaccurate. But what I appreciated watching it as an adult was how well the humor worked for adults as well as children, because obviously when you're a kid watching this, like a lot of the humor goes over your head. I mentioned to you in our episode of The Emperor's New Groove that I thought older Pixar Disney movies were better because of that type of humor, and so I think that holds up in this. The cast is phenomenal. You've got James Woods as Hades, who is just a thrill and a half. And I think it is a very quick, very straight to the point, nice little action adventure romance movie. Now, I will also say that I remember as a kid thinking that the plot was a lot like thicker and that more things happened.
Yeah, it might be a little too quick.
Yeah, it moves very quickly. There's not a whole, like, they kind of have to give away a lot of plot in like dialogues so they don't have to waste time showing it, which I suppose is an important thing to do in a kid's movie because you can't really hold a child's attention for that long. But I think of those types of kids movies, it is happy. It has awesome music. The muses are phenomenal. I think every song is catchy and there's not too much music to a point where it's like, oh my God, okay, we get it. And I just think it's a nice, fun, easy watch. I get a little emotional at the end. I got a little teary-eyed. That's my spoiler-free opinion. Why don't you give your spoiler-free opinion and then we'll talk about the details.
I think you were right in saying, it's a nice, fun, easy watch. I don't think it's, there's not overly too much to it. It probably moves a little too quick for its own good, because I feel like I noticed at one point that like Meg and Hercules are declaring their love for each other, and I'm like, this is the third time they have met each other.
Yes.
Like one of those times was like super duper brief. Pegasus is adorable.
Oh my God,
whether as baby Pegasus or adult. I love me some Pegasus. I do want to read a quote from Giselle, because Zeus, as we know from our Grecian,
yes.
You sure you're saying it right? Oh, I sense some trepidation in you now too.
Well, I didn't know if you were asking if the dumb way that you said it or the real way.
I'm gonna sound wrong either way. She loves Greek mythology, so she knew the truth about Zeus. So a quote from Giselle: "We obviously know Zeus was a hoe. He was spreading it wide and laying it low. He could come down with some pussy, but he couldn't raise his son."
I fucking love Giselle.
She saw me typing as soon as that was happening, and she was like, "What are you doing?"
Read that again, please, one more time.
"We obviously know Zeus was a hoe. He was spreading it wide and laying it low. He could come down for some pussy, but he couldn't raise his son."
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my body.
Which, that in many ways, I kept thinking of how, I know that this is not accurate to like the mythology of Hercules, but I was like, oh my God, it's fairly accurate to Superman.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
He's cast down from, I guess Mount Olympus would be Krypton in this scenario. Ma and Pa Kent are the farmer people who find and raise him. And, he has these powers and doesn't fit in with the people that he is raised amongst. It's obviously not one for one, but I was like, I just thought it was somewhat interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. One thing I do enjoy about this movie, though, in terms of the Greek mythology, and I'm not an expert, Giselle would know better than me, but I think the other like tertiary gods, like you have Hermes.
You're not sounding as confident anymore, Gab. Go on.
No, well, I don't have a master's degree, do I, Dylan?
Hermes, Apollo,
Hermes, Apollo,
Theseus.
Narcissist. all of them are accurate. And I think that's why we watched it in high school, because like the other character, like
You watched it in high school because
situation-
your teacher did not feel like doing anything. That's why
Yes,
you watched this.
that is true. We now, as adults, we now know that to be true. But I think maybe it was middle school when we watched it, honestly.
Even
but
more
either
so,
way.
your middle school teacher was like, I got a hangover. I'm putting on Hercules so these kids can shut up.
Yeah, well, she was 23, so it all makes sense now. I think they do a good job. I think the storylines are inaccurate, but the characterizations are, for the most part, accurate.
Yeah. Except for Zeus being a hoe.
Right. Yeah.
James Woods, as you had brought up before, is by far the best part of this movie.
By far.
Like,
By far.
he
Danny
carries it
DeVito,
away.
also good.
Danny DeVito is fine. I wrote down at one point, I was like, has Danny DeVito ever not been great in anything? And then I went, okay, his singing is not so great.
Yeah. But I think it adds a charm. So let's talk. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Do you have anything else to say?
Well, go ahead if you have something to say. The biggest thing that I wanted to put out that I did really enjoy about the movie is James Woods, by far.
Yeah.
Him as Hades is by far the most memorable thing about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he is so good. And that's a character that I will quote to this day. Like, if someone looks at me funny, I'll be like, what, is my hair out? I think he is so good. And when I hear him on Family Guy, I'm always like, oh, it's Hades. Like, it gives me the warm and fuzzy. So let's talk a little bit more about like the details. So the movie moves very quickly. As you said, Hercules we find out early on that Hades has a plan to overtake Zeus with his what are they called? His
Titans?
the big Titans, thank you. To use the Titans that Zeus managed to like lock up, to free them, to take over Mount Olympus and kind of be the one in charge. And kind of free himself from the underworld in which he has been, I guess, banished to or put in charge of.
That did make me think. I had it written down here, like, Hades has right to be bad. Zeus forced him into being the only one with a shit job and shit real estate.
Honestly.
Like, he's like away from all the other gods. He's got a hell of a commute if he wants to go back to Mount Olympus to see anybody. He's surrounded by a bunch of people who are in hell, so they're not having a great time. Like, when you're surrounded by negative people, it feeds negative emotions. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. He did get the short end of a stick. We will assume for good reason, but nevertheless, it's a shitty job, but somebody's got to do it. So he finds out from these three witches, very Macbeth style, that his plan will work, except Hercules in 18 years, when he comes of age, will ruin the plan. So Hades has his little minions named Pain and Panic, who are like demons, I guess.
Yeah, I would assume they're little demon dudes. They're good.
Little demon guys. They're very cute. They're very funny. He has them go on a mission to kill Hercules, or to make him mortal, rather. And in order for him to become mortal, he has to drink every last drop of this potion. And he, of course, drinks all but one tiny drop. He is mortal, but he still has these godlike powers. So growing up, Hercules doesn't fit in. He's very strong, but very clumsy, which I think is an interesting way of making a god mortal, right? Like,
well, he was mortal. Like, if you stabbed him, he'd die. But there was this thing about him where he kept all the strength of the gods.
Yes.
So he's basically got super strength, and that's about,
and super speed.
Do we see him be super speedy at times?
I mean,
when he's running with
the cart.
Yes.
Yeah. So he doesn't fit in. He's very clumsy. He's too strong for his own good. He doesn't know his own strength. Whatever. Like any teenage boy who's like a bull in a china shop, but to the 10th degree. So he doesn't fit in. He's very sad. Eventually, Ma and Pa tell him that he was found. He had this medallion around his neck, which is the symbol of the gods. So he decides, literally that moment, that he is going to go on a journey to find Zeus, or go to the temple of Zeus and find out who he is.
And
so
he tells his loving family, I am done with you jokers. Peace out forever.
Yeah, basically. And he goes to the temple of Zeus. Zeus immediately comes alive and is like, my son. And he's like, oh my God, I'm your son. How do I join you on Mount Olympus? And he's like, well, that's the thing. You can't.
I feel like you're waiting for me to say something. I was like, yes.
just giving you a moment to chime in. I don't want to take up all the real estate.
It just makes me think like, how nice of you to show up for 5 minutes, Zeus. Like, Zeus would come down and like, I feel like Hercules should have been like, wait, what? How do I bounce a checkbook? Just would have like, bye.
He was like, yep. So basically, if you want to join me, you've got to prove that you're a real hero. Okay,
a true
bye.
hero. And he's like, what does that mean? And he's like, I'll tell you later.
I gotta go. So Hercules is like, oh, but he does say, here's Pegasus.
Yeah, and Pegasus headbutts him, which in reality, that probably would have been alone. Well, in reality, but that alone would have been enough to kill him. You know what I mean?
In reality,
there
if
are several
flying
times
horse headbutts you.
There are several times where Hercules takes hits that you're like, wait, no, that should fuck him up. Like, especially, obviously we're in spoiler territory. At the end of the movie, when Hercules has given up his godlike strength to keep Meg out of harm's way, the Cyclops bitch slaps the fuck out of him all the way over to like the other side of Thebes, and he's just like still alive. And I'm like, every bone in his body should be devastated here.
For real, honestly. So Hercules goes on a mission to become a true hero. He winds up hiring Phil, who is Danny DeVito, to coach him into becoming a hero, because this character, Philatides, I think is his real name, was a like famous hero coach or something. They make him into a hero. He starts to prove himself, and then he meets Meg, who immediately charms him.
Oh, wait. I do have to tell you, I did write down, Hercules is being clumsy, but he's throwing the discus, and he's, throwing the goat up in the air and catching it. And I wrote down, he may be having trouble now, but once Hercules gets into the CrossFit games, he will dominate.
That is really what it felt like. I was like, damn, he's out there training for the games.
He would have been fine climbing over those bales of hay. Not a problem for him.
No problem. However, I will say I do think that speaks very highly of the sport of CrossFit, that you even thought that with Hercules. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I also started listening to a new podcast about cults, and I listened to the episode about CrossFit, and jury's out on whether or not it's a cult. So TBD. Anyway. I'll send you the episode. It's great.
Gab may or may not be joining the Branch Davidians. She'll let you know how Waco goes.
Yeah. We'll come back next week on Movies to Watch Before You Die and Cults to Join Before You Are Kidnapped. So
Kool-Aid, should you drink it?
Gatorade, should you guzzle it? Anyway, so Hercules he meets Meg. He is immediately enamored of her, which, by the way, did you know the phrase is enamored of you, not enamored with you or by you?
Okay.
So he's enamored with her.
Okay.
And I guess we find out that Meg, I'm acting like I didn't just watch this. We find out that Meg is working for Hades because she sold her soul to him to protect her ex-boyfriend, who then left her. So she's got no soul. She is the slave of Hades, and she has no faith in men. Sounds like your standard
deal with the devil, to be fair.
Yes. Yeah.
That's about how those normally go. They don't normally end like, hey, I got everything I want, and you got everything you want. Everybody walks away, peachy keen.
Yeah, typically not. But I think it's such an interesting, and that's something that as a kid I didn't recognize, right? Like, Meg is very guarded because she just sold her soul to Satan to protect a man who turned around and left her for somebody else. That's crazy.
Yeah, she could have made some better choices there.
Yeah, so I understand now as an adult why she is so hesitant to like start dating this dude who seems perfect, because of course when that happens you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop constantly, right?
Now, to be fair, as we're talking about the movie moving quickly, this is gone over in a single line by Hades saying like, now, I know we just got through this whole deal where, you sold your soul to me for your boyfriend who then went off with somebody else. And it's like that quick. It's over. It's done. We have spent 10 times longer talking about it than the movie did. Not that they needed to have scenes and scenes about it. I'm just saying it's like something that very brief. You know what I mean? It's like we're inferring more of the emotion from it than like, do we see Meg struggling with the fact that she's been hurt by men before? No, not really.
Yeah, she sings a song about it, in fairness.
Yes.
But it's very quick. It's easy to miss. But if you pay close enough attention, you will find that is the case. And Hercules is becoming distracted from his true mission, which is to prove himself a true hero, by her. And there's a very complicated situation where she does have feelings for him, but she is protecting herself. But also she's trying to help entrap him because she has sold her soul to Hades, and Hades needs him to be gone so he can follow through with his plan, which is quickly running out of time.
Which Hades' plan, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Hades is told 18 years in the past that his plan will work as long as 18 years from now, Hercules is not alive and of age to fight. Why doesn't he, A, just do the plan sooner than 18 years? There was nothing that he needed to wait 18 years for.
Wow.
Oh no, I feel like I had more points, but I'm forgetting them. But that's a pretty good one. Oh, second thing. He has Pain and Panic kill baby Hercules.
Immortalize baby Hercules.
No, they are supposed to kill him.
Oh, I guess they have to make him immortal before they can kill him.
They went to make him mortal and then they just failed. And they were like, oh, we'll just never tell him. But all the dead, those dead souls go to where, Hades.
Where he works.
Yes. I'm like, bro, you're supposed to be doing a job. Keep track of the dead. You didn't see that he's not there?
That's true.
That should be your favorite soul. You should be like, look how good I'm going to do now because I killed you. And instead he's like all shocked years later. It's not like this ruins this children's film, but it's like, it's just a obvious thing.
Yeah.
Also, another quote from Giselle. Hercules, the OG Nepo baby.
Yes.
I have one quote that I wrote down from this movie as being like something that was memorable to me.
Okay.
Somebody call IXII. That I like.
That is so good. There's a lot of funny lines like that, I think.
Well, not really. Like there's a couple of okay lines. Here's one other line I wrote down because it surprised me. Zeus laughs and says, I kill myself. Hades says, if only. Which I was like, whoa, a suicide joke in a Disney movie. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
I feel like I've tried not to show which side of the fence I'm leaning on, but it's coming out now.
It's obvious.
It is. It's not very memorable to me.
I'm so surprised.
It's certainly not bad, but it's not that funny. Nobody really stands out besides James Woods. And I feel like the harshest thing I'm going to say, I like the style of music they chose. I think that's a bold and interesting choice. I don't find any of the songs memorable.
I'm shocked. So we should mention that it's gospel music, and the there's something in your closet that I thought was dirt on my computer screen.
Don't tell everybody that I recorded the side of a closet.
sorry. But guess what, guys? Dylan's in the closet. So had to do it. You set me up. It was a T-ball. I needed to hit it.
Yes, that was a great joke 20 years ago, Gab.
Thank you. So okay. The story is narrated by these muses who are originally painted on like a Greek vase, right? Is that what they're called? Grecian vase, and they come to life, and there's 5 and they're just Black women gospel singers, and god damn it, do they nail it. I mean, the music is just so catchy. It's so good right off the top. They come back periodically to keep the story moving, and they appear like in and out of scenes. So Meg is singing her song, which I love, about not wanting to admit that she's in love with Hercules because she wants to protect herself, and they kind of come in and give her background vocals and whatnot. The music is phenomenal, I think. But
I think it's fine.
I do want to talk about the culminating scene of this movie, which I think is where, even though watching it back, I was like, oh, this moves kind of quickly. They're moving over a lot of plot things and quite frankly, some plot holes very quickly, just kind of like ignoring it. It felt a little too fast for its own good, as you said. But the moment where Hercules becomes a true hero, gets to go to Mount Olympus, takes Meg, right? Meg is there. They're together. She's very proud of him. He saves her life. and he's going up to the top of Mount Olympus. He meets his mother and his father, and they give him big hugs, and they're like, welcome home. Everyone is so happy to have him. And he says, thank you. I'm so grateful. I feel like I finally know who I am now. And then he turns around and goes to Meg, who is immortal and cannot go to Mount Olympus, and says, but I know that something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing here, I know where I belong now, and it is with Meg. And that is my home. And so I'm going to go back to Earth and be with her. And God damn it, the waterworks are flowing. I mean, he chooses her over, like, the whole story is he doesn't know where he belongs. And you think to yourself, oh, well, he belongs on Mount Olympus. But no, he belongs with Meg.
To be fair, Gab, these are all people he barely knows. He does not know his godmother, like his mother that is the god. He doesn't know her name. He doesn't know what her fucking name is. He walks up to her and he's like, I assume your mom? Like, I don't know.
I know.
Meg is one of like 3 people that he actually knows, and he's met her 3 times.
Oh,
it's the
God,
third time they meet. You know what I mean?
But you have to kind of suspend your disbelief in this.
Yeah, I don't think it's a love story worth crying over, certainly.
Well, here's what I'll say from like my personal perspective. I remember being a kid and my mom loved this movie, She just thought it was the greatest thing. And I think there's something to be said about like when you're kind of in like your like our age and you're watching kids movies. Like my mom was, essentially like 3 years older than me right now when we were watching this movie when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And it's tolerable, right? You're not like, oh my God, turn this off. The music is good. It's fun for the whole family. And there's a love story. And so I think as an adult, it's ingrained in me that like, I love this movie. My mom loved this movie. Everyone in my family loves this movie. Adults love this movie. It's a great movie. Maybe that is more like based on my experience than the actual film itself.
I think that is, of course, a powerful part of watching a movie is when you saw it for the first time. Yeah. Like, I think the fact that I saw it as an adult definitely has a major effect on, how much I would or would not care about it. I still don't know if I would like love it if I'd seen it as a kid. Like, there are plenty of Disney movies that I saw as a kid that I have like no memory of. Like Tarzan, The Little Mermaid, I have no real feelings towards because I barely remember them. In fact, I actively remember disliking the music of Tarzan, which I know is a point of contention for many people.
I don't think I've ever seen Tarzan. I do know that it is Phil Collins, and obviously, like, I love Phil Collins, but I've actually never seen The Little Mermaid all the way through, and it's because I never had the VHS because you had the VHS, and my mom was always like, if you want to watch it, go watch it at Zach and Dylan's house.
Yeah, we probably just didn't feel like watching it, I'm sure, when you were over.
Well, anytime I was like, let's watch it, you guys were like, no, let's watch Terminator.
Oh my God, if you ask me right now, yes, let's watch Terminator.
Little Mermaid or Terminator?
Dude, Terminator will kick the Little Mermaid's ass.
But anyway, I digress.
I think it's very important when you see that movie, though, and I do think having watched it now, it feels like it's good, but it's like B-tier Disney to me.
Okay.
Like it does not reach the heights of like the Mulans and the Lion Kings, especially in terms of the music. Because when I think of Disney music, the very first song that comes to my mind is I'll Make a Man Out of You. Swear to God. Oh my God. That song's a fucking bop.
I have so much to say about that. So first of all, when I ran my first marathon, I put that on my marathon playlist. And when it came on shuffle, I've got like a second wind. I was like, yes.
All I have to say is let's get down to business.
So, and then another thing I want to say about that is that for whatever reason over the summer, that song, like either we heard it or it came up or something. And like, it just kind of like got into our heads, mine and Corey's heads. And there was a time where he doesn't know all the words, right? But he started singing it and he was making up his own words. And the line I'll never forget was, let's get down to business. I'm the guy in charge.
Close enough.
I mean, it's like, yeah, that's essentially, that's the point we're trying to get across.
As long as you're going forward and feeling it, that's all that matters.
I'm the guy in charge. Anyway.
But Mulan has that song. The Lion King has Can You Feel the Love Tonight? The Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
Aladdin, off the top of my head, has Oh no, I should know
Oh,
the name of
come
the song.
on. Dum, dum,
Part of Your World?
Nope, that's
No,
Little
that's the Little
Mermaid.
Mermaid. God damn it, I'm mixing these
What
movies.
you're thinking of is I Can Show a Whole New World.
Yes, a whole new. God damn it, that is
But
what I was thinking of.
there's a better song, Prince Ali. Prince
Prince
Ali,
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 Si,
Ali,
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 Abagua. That's a much better song. Anyway, yeah. So I will agree with you, and I will say this: when I watched Hercules back, I was like, oh, those other ones are better, but they feel like they're a little bit too highbrow for this podcast. Like,
What?
well, in other words, like The Lion King is obviously a movie you should watch, Frida. Like that's not a
Okay, you mean it's
in
too
contention.
obviously,
Yeah.
obviously a classic.
Yeah.
That feels better than just saying like we only watch lowbrow trash.
Well, I just meant in the context of this podcast, it's obviously like too
Yes, this is, the Lion
renowned.
King ranks right amongst The Godfather and Casablanca as movies we don't need to talk about because you know they're great. You've heard that from
Yes.
a million other people.
Yes. Mulan is an interesting point though. That's another movie that I loved.
Mulan's a banger.
Yeah.
I did not see the live action version and I have no interest.
Me neither. Same. We're aligned on that. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say before we get to the facts. Corey and I were going to be Hercules and Meg for Halloween.
You
And
still
then-
can.
Yeah, maybe someday.
You can still go ahead and do that. May my feelings on this movie not at all deter you from doing that.
It would have been great. All right. Well, I guess let's get to the facts then.
Let's get to some happy facts.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
The first thing that I have here was that there are more than 700 artists, animators, and technicians contributed to the movie.
Wow. And you just disrespected each and every one of them.
Not at all. I think that their work is fantastic. Although, to be honest, I don't think that the CGI on the Hydra has aged very well at all.
No, it hasn't for sure.
Oh, wait. Before I get into more of the facts, let me talk about the numbers that we like to go over. So let's go to Rotten Tomatoes first. On the tomato meter, Hercules has an 82%, an average rating of 7 out of 10, with 46 fresh reviews and 10 rotten. An audience score of 76%, with an average score of 3.9 out of 5. And on IMDb, it has a 7.3 out of 10.
Huh.
It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song for Go the Distance.
Yes. What a great song.
It's fine. I don't remember it at all already.
I will say something really funny about that. This morning, I guess there's a new trending sound on Instagram, and it's a song from Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I think would also be kind of in this category of like B-list Disney movies that are good. And I thought to myself, like, the song was playing and it was like, I guess it's called Somewhere Out There. And I was like, oh, that's the Hercules song. And then I was like, wait, no, it's not. But it sounds exactly the same. So understood. It's a little generic.
The movie was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, who also directed Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, and The Great Mouse Detective. It was written by Ron Clements, John Musker, and Don McInerney, who also wrote A Bug's Life, Aladdin, and The Little Mermaid.
A Bug's Life. That's a movie.
I remember that and Ants came out together, and I remember seeing Ants at some point and being like, bro, this is not as good. Like,
Yeah. But Woody Allen.
and like Sylvester Stallone, it's like, what?
Yeah. We saw Ants together, I think, in the movie theaters.
Could be.
Or maybe it was A Bug's Life. One of the two.
The movie stars Tate Donovan as Hercules, who you may know from Argo, Manchester by the Sea, and many other kid-friendly films. Susan Egan as Meg, who was also in a few episodes of Steven Universe, Spirited Away. Not much of anything that I could find for Susan Egan. Danny DeVito as Phil, who you know from It's Always Sunny, except for Cap. Twins, Matilda, and a million other things. James Woods as Hades, who you may know from Videodrome, and 2 excellent guest appearances on Family Guy and The Simpsons. And it said it was narrated by Charlton Heston, but like that's like just for 2 seconds at the beginning that like they even felt it worthwhile to include this. But he's from The 10 Commandments, Planet of the Apes, and True Lies.
Yeah. Rip Torn as Zeus, who I don't really know, but I do think it is absolutely fucking bananas that this man's name is Rip Torn.
You do know him as Zed from Men in Black?
Okay, yeah. The last time I watched Men in Black was probably in the movie theaters with you.
Men in Black, also a banger. The critics' consensus on Hercules: fast-paced and packed with dozens of pop culture references, Hercules might not measure up with the true classics of the Disney pantheon, but it's still plenty of fun.
Okay, I'll take that.
It had a budget of $85 million and grossed $253 million.
Not too
What
shabby.
did our boy, Roger Ebert, say?
Let's hear it.
3.5 stars. Will children like this subject matter, or will they find Greek myth unfamiliar? I think they'll love it. And in an age when kids get their heroes from TV instead of books, is Hercules any more unfamiliar than Pocahontas or Aladdin or The Hunchback for that matter?
Okay.
James Berardinelli from Real Views. Hercules has the dubious distinction of being the least enchanting cartoon Disney has fashioned in over a decade. People have such hot fucking takes. I love it. Kenneth
Seriously.
Turn from the LA Times. Light on its feet and continually amusing, this free-spirited showbiz version of Greek mythology ranks with the best of modern Disney animation.
Yeah.
Obviously, movies are subjective.
Of course.
Carson Tamar from Buttered Popcorn, and this was in 2023. The film struggles to find a strong voice and identity as it drags itself through a rehashed story with weak characters that lack the iconic performances needed to elevate them.
Oh.
And finally, James Sanford from the Kalamazoo Gazette. While all the customary ingredients are at hand, the dreamy hero, the curvaceous heroine, the comic sidekick, the smarmy villain, the magic is missing this time out, a minor addition to the Disney pantheon.
I'd like to make a comment on that because he refers to Meg as the curvaceous.
Yeah. The
You know,
curvaceous heroine.
They make a lot of references to Meg being curvaceous, and she's drawn like a twig stick figure.
The most curvaceous thing is her hair.
Yeah,
which, like,
her hair
I'm like,
is like big.
is her skull weird, or does her hair just partially stand up in a weird way?
She kind of looks like Phineas from Phineas and Ferb.
A little bit. She's got like a weird shape to her head.
Like a triangle head, yeah. But yeah, they were like, oh my God, her curves. And I was like, she's tiny. I don't see any curves. Anyway, I digress.
Okay, let's get through a couple more facts here. Hades was scripted as a slow, menacing character until James Woods took the role and impressed the crew with his rapid-fire style. Even after the script was rewritten, Woods ad-libbed many of his lines.
So good. He is the best part of this movie by far.
By far. James Woods ate a watermelon while recording to make the slurping sounds more authentic in the scene where Hades is eating worms.
Oh, I love that.
While the movies, I turned into Smeagol for a second. While the movies is about Greek myths, Hercules is actually the protagonist's Roman name. Heracles is his Greek name.
Mm.
In Greek mythology, there were 9 muses. The 5 shown here are, fuck me, I'm going to try. Calliope, who did epic poetry, Clio of history, Melpomene, tragedy, Terpsichore, dance, and Thalia, comedy. Fuck you, Gab, they might all be right. You don't know.
That's great. You did Calliope correctly, and I know that because I have a friend named Calliope.
Sweet. Phil cleans himself up using a lion skin. The skin once belonged to Scar from the Lion King, which I was like, this is traumatic for some people.
That was very funny to me. And it's so funny too, because like that timeline doesn't add up.
No. The Spice Girls were originally approached to portray the Muses following an invitation to sing one of the songs, but declined the offer due to scheduling conflicts.
Oh, interesting.
In the version for Latin America, the voice of Hercules is played by Ricky Martin.
Well, of course, they've only got like 3 famous people to choose from, right?
What?
That was a joke. It was a joke. It's just
like,
meaning
what does that mean?
like, of course, they needed to get Ricky Martin to do it because they don't have anybody else who's talented and qualified.
I mean, at the time, could there have been anybody more famous?
Yeah.
While the story of Hercules' birth and adoption in the film is not true to the myth, it does mirror the story of Oedipus, who is referenced several other times throughout the film. Oedipus was abandoned on a mountainside, much like the scenery of where Hercules is left, and baby Oedipus is found by a local farmer who gives the baby to his master and is raised by him and his wife, who had been unable to conceive. Hercules' adopted parents were portrayed more or less as farmers, and his mother comments about Hercules being the baby they had prayed for, implying they had been unable to conceive. Ain't that a motherfucker? Get it? Because Oedipus.
Yep, got it.
Last fact here. When Danny DeVito asked directors John Musker and Ron Clements who they had in mind to play Hades, they responded by saying they hadn't selected an appropriate actor for the role yet. In response, DeVito blurted out, "Why don't you ask Jack Nicholson?" After DeVito notified Nicholson of the project, the next week, the Walt Disney Studios was willing to pay Nicholson $500,000 for the role, but Nicholson demanded roughly a paycheck of $10 to $15 million. plus a 50% cut of all the proceeds from Hades merchandise. Unwilling to share merchandising proceeds with the actor, Disney came back with a counteroffer that was significantly less than what Nicholson had asked for. Therefore, Nicholson passed.
So what did they end up paying James Woods? 500,000?
Not 10 to 15 million dollars.
James Woods also dead, correct?
No.
James Woods didn't die recently?
James Woods is very much alive as far as I know.
I'm gonna check you on that because I don't think
double checking it right now, but I'm 99% sure.
I'm 99% sure he died.
He's a little right-wingy now, but he is very much alive.
Oh wow, he's right-wingy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's upsetting.
I've never seen this on Wikipedia. It says alma mater, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I was like, oh, MIT. Then it says in parentheses, no degree. I don't know why I felt the need to point that out. Like, you didn't tell me that.
He went, but he didn't finish. So interesting. Oh, I need to apologize, and it's
What's
all
happening here?
coming back to me now. So I thought James Woods was the mayor in Family Guy, and he died, but that's Adam West.
Oh, that's Adam West.
That's who I'm thinking of. Mayor Adam West. He is dead. R.I.P. to him. James Woods plays himself.
Yes. Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
And only in one episode or two episodes?
Yes, he is in one episode of Family Guy and one episode of The Simpsons, but in both of them, he is phenomenal.
I thought he was like a reoccurring role. I must have just seen that episode like a bunch.
Maybe. I mean, he's worked for 40 to 50 years, so he's done a lot of stuff. Videodrome is the first thing that always comes to my mind, and that's a weird mindfuck of a movie. Yeah, I think is it time to get to some verdicts?
I guess let's get to some verdicts.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence to death.
I'll go first. No, actually, why don't you go first? Because let me go first so you don't influence me. Listen, I chose this movie with very high expectations. I had a lot of sentimental value attached to it in both recent memory with my potential Halloween costume and old memory of going to see it live and my mother loving it so much. And I think we owned it and we have all the plates and, yada, yada, yada. I do recognize that as an adult, it is not a cinematic masterpiece, but I do think as far as movies that you can watch with the whole family, it is very entertaining. I think the cast does a great job. I think the music is chef's kiss. And I think that if I had to pit it up against The Emperor's New Groove, I would 10 out of 10 times choose Hercules. And I think that is going to make it, for me, a movie to watch before you die.
What's funny is if you hadn't brought back The Emperor's New Groove, I wouldn't have brought it up again, but I 1000% would watch The Emperor's New Groove over this. And, it's just a matter of when you watch a movie, who you watch it with, because you have every right to feel that this is a movie to watch before you die. For me, having watched it and Giselle, very much felt the same way, it's a bit forgettable. You know what I mean? It's by no means bad. I am like, I didn't want to be harsh. The Redeemed and the Dominant, that was a bad documentary. You know what I mean? From a cinematic standpoint, it does a lot wrong.
Okay.
Hercules is, very capable. It doesn't do anything wrong. It's not hurting anybody. It's not great. You know what I mean?
That's
like
fair.
It just doesn't rise to a level where I'm like, it's a movie to watch before you die. It is. If you love Hercules, you do you, homie. You have every right to do so, but it's fine.
We've just become so mature in these conversations. I'm proud of us.
Also, fuck you.
Yeah, and I think you're a stupid piece of shit. That's fair. Yeah. I was definitely more underwhelmed than I anticipated, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I mean, I'm not gonna go ahead, and watch it again next week, but I thought it was good.
It was fine. God, I'm like, I guess I should pick a movie for next week, shouldn't I?
Yeah, no pressure if you don't want to do it on the podcast. I mean, last week I said we were going to be doing a movie that I ended up not choosing.
I think last week you said we're doing Sleepless in Seattle unless we're not, and it's like, well, we're not.
Yeah, surprise.
I've got two that I'm between, but I think right now I'm just going to go ahead and pick it. The 80s action sci-fi classic.
God.
Oh yeah, you love it, Gab. RoboCop.
No. Are you fucking kidding me? You're gonna make me watch RoboCop?
You've never seen it, right?
No, no, none of those things are appealing to me. Let's
you're
just
gonna
get
watch
to
it
the
anyway.
verdict right now. The verdict is I hated it.
You don't know that. You thought you were gonna hate Die Hard too.
I did think I was going to hate Die Hard, and I loved it. I recently brought that up to somebody too. Like, we were talking about different types of movies. Oh my God, I got stuck in an elevator. And I mentioned Die Hard because I think we were talking about, are we going to have to climb up through the shaft and whatever? And I was like, there's something about Die Hard. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, yes, you go, girl. You are well-rounded.
Come out to the coast. You'll have a few laughs. Great movie.
Great movie. All right, RoboCop. So I'm afraid I'm going to end up watching the wrong one. This is the one from the 80s, right? Because didn't they recently remake RoboCop?
Yes. I think in like 2015, maybe.
Okay.
I will make sure you do not watch the wrong RoboCop. And I want to thank you, dear listener, for listening to this episode of our podcast.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can find us. I mean, you already found us somewhere, but if you want to find us in other places, we're also on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and, you know, a bunch of other podcast things. You could probably find us on one of them. But if you want to tell us that we're wrong, if you want to tell me that Hercules is his cinematic masterpiece and I am a goddamn moron, you can send us a voice message at anchor.fm/movies to watch or an email at
movies to watch before you die at gmail.com.
Nailed it, Gab. Nailed it.
Thank you. You didn't even have to point to me. I just
didn't
knew it
even
was my
point.
turn.
I set you up to fail there, but you nailed it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. And
no, I was going to do exactly what you're doing. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for listening. We are honored to have invaded your ear holes. Please send us more mail. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you agree, disagree. Send us some movie recommendations. And of course, Venmo me if you want to be my favorite listener.
Join the celebration.
Hey, love to, babe. But unlike you gods lounging about up here, I regrettably have a full-time gig that you, by the way, so charitably bestowed on me, Zeus. So, can't. Love to, but can't.